ignoring the money. The money is the scariest thing. And then this is something that Trump was like really the first sitting president to discuss. And we talked about that Steve Hilton interview where he said there is a military industrial complex and these guys want to go to war. And to have a sitting president say that out loud, like, hey, what am I going to do? He's just like kind of putting it out there.
But it was amazing. But what was crazy about it too was he was almost saying it like the way I'd say it on your podcast, like just someone bitching about it who has no real power over it. He's like, yeah, I don't want to go to war, but all these guys love war, so war. And you're like, but you're the commander in chief, dude. Like you're supposed to be able to say no.
Is it that you can't say no to everything and you have to kind of navigate that like how does that work?
I think so. My read on it is that I think they kind of boxed Donald Trump in with what he would politically be able to do, and I think that's a lot of what the Russia collusion nonsense was all about. Because he was running on let's make a deal with Vladimir Putin, let's be friends with Russia. But once the media is saying, oh, you're a Russian spy, well, now you can't really make a deal with Vladimir Putin because then look, proof he was a Russian spy. So they kind of boxed him in. I think they manipulated him and they lied to him about a lot of the stuff. I mean, there were articles written about how they had misled him about the number of troops still remaining in Syria when he wanted to end that war several different times. I think that it seemed like they really convinced him that Assad had been gassing his own people, and that convinced Trump to bomb Syria a couple times. I don't know exactly what the conversations were like. I do know that if he really wanted to be the guy who was ending all of the wars, and he wanted to be the guy who wasn't giving into the military-industrial complex, it makes no sense for him to have people like Lindsey Graham in his ear. It made no sense for him to make Mike Pompeo his Secretary of State. It made no sense to have these guys like Mattis and he put the war party into all of these positions, and then he's like, "Wait, man, they're undermining me at every turn." And you're like, "Well, yeah, you should have put better people in."
Before you get into office. And this is like, we were talking about this last night, that like if you could sit down with Trump, what would be one of the first things you would ask him? What I would ask is like, first of all, what did you think it was going to be like and what was it like? When you get into office, how much research do you need to do on each individual to find out where their ties are? And like, how do you know who to put in what position?
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting question. And like, at what point do you realize, like at what point did Trump figure out, like, oh, okay, these guys are kind of working against me. Yeah. Like my own deep state is kind of my own intelligence agencies who are supposed to work for me are actually working to undermine me, which they clearly are, and many have admitted at this point that they were. That I'd be really interested to hear what he has to say.